Hello, dear friends. I have spent many years studying the problem of geopathy and trying to find solutions. This is a summary of my knowledge illustrated with that of others. Opinion piece. Geopathy, an uncomfortable sleep. Many people sleep badly and wake up tired. This is explained by a geopathic stress of the area. It is also related to the ley lines of power. The ley lines have a sacred or mystical meaning. The problem is greater if they sleep, or if you sleep, with your cell phone on. I repeat it. The problem is greater if you sleep with your cell phone on. A line junction is the worst place to sleep or wake. Protests in Europe as shutdowns and passes begin. Demonstrations in London, Dublin, Paris, Rome and Athens. Blackout in Spain and Portugal due to a power outage in France. Spaniards lose purchasing power due to electricity and tax hikes. Paseo del Prado and Buen Retiro declared Unesco World Heritage Sites. Let's start. Many human beings sleep badly and wake up tired because their bed is located in a place of bad vibrations that produce geopathy or geopathic stress, and the problem is greater if you sleep with the cell phone on. Some people think that the vibrations of the earth can cause diseases such as cancer, and one way to find out where this vibration occurs is by dosing. The simplest remedy for this problem is to move the bed, preferably with the head facing east, but there are also insulating plates on the market to put under the mattress, insulating clothing woven with silver thread, or frequency inhibitors to eliminate electromagnetic pollution, all very expensive by the way. Since ancient times, we have known about the existence of harmful radiations emanating from the planet and the damage they cause to the health of human beings when exposed to them for long periods of time. If these radiations are constant and permanent, the body gradually begins to lose its ability to adapt and is devitalized, producing damage, especially degeneration and imbalances in physiological functions. In this case, we can consider that the person is under the influence of a geopathy, which is nothing more than the excess of the radiation, both natural and artificial, for a prolonged period of time. Definition: geopathy or geopathology is a theory that links the inherent radiation of the earth to the health of humans, animals and plants. It is suggested that the health problems associated with geopathic stress anomalies range from sleep disorders to more serious ailments and weakening of the immune system. The Earth has a natural frequency, but distorting this vibration are features such as subway, water courses, drainage pipes, subway tunnels, and even simple geological faults. These distorted frequencies rise upward throughout the Earth's surface and create a pernicious effect on the health and behavior of all biological life. The distortions are amplified during nighttime hours, and consequently the impact is greater if a bedroom is the focal point of the best radiation, nothing also that the subject during sleep time will be continuously located in the path of such radiation. Explanation: according to the Great White Brotherhood, geopathic stress happens due to the development of a bodily imbalance or disease as a consequence of placing oneself with certain assiduity near some of the lines of harmful energies appearing on the earth. Geopathic stress has been shown to be a common factor in many serious and minor illnesses and chronic ailments, as well as weakening of the immune system, cardiovascular deficiencies, attention deficit disorder, immune deficiency disorder, chronic fatigue are some of the harmful influences of geopathic stress. Other effects can manifest themselves in the organism as chronic pain, sudden headaches, signs of physical aging, irritability, restlessness, and sleep disorders. In general, depending on the greater or lesser intensity of their radiations, the time of permanence on the same predisposition of each person, it can be affected by rheumatism, circulatory problems, bronchial affections, arthrosis, Alzheimer, Parkinson, ulcers, and tumors. In general, these conditions have no medical explanation. It is also a common factor in cases of infertility and miscarriages, learning difficulties, behavioral problems, and neurological disability in children. The main source of geopathic imbalance is the Hartmann lines. These lines can be detected and neutralized. They were discovered in 1950 by a German physician named Ernst Hartmann. The lines from a grid around the Earth, running north to south and east to west, forming a grid, and extend to a height of 60 to 600 feet, according to Dr. Hartmann. The worst place for a person to sleep or wake is at the junction of two Hartmann lines, that is, where two lines intersect because of the radiation emitted from that location. When the natural radiation of electromagnetic fields emanating from the groundwater, mineral concentrations, faults, and subway cavities is not taken into account, is when we become geopathically ill. Thus, these distorted radiation fields are harmful to all living organisms. A simple way is to observe the animals, if we are lucky enough to have any at home, because like plants, they have a sixth sense capable of detecting these subtle energies of the earth. If we have a sofa on which we end up tired or grumpy whenever we lie down on it, and if our pet doesn't want to be there, it is very likely that a Hartmann streak passes right where the sofa is. The best thing to do is to move it. If we look at wild animals, we can observe how they avoid geopathogenic zones, since they do not make their burrows on their nests in these zones. Geopathic stress. Geopathic stress is produced by electromagnetic waves released from deep within the Earth's core, which reach the surface. These natural harmless vibrations can be distorted by the flow of subway waters that play with the energy release, creating geopathic stress, which over time can affect our enjoyment of our living spaces and even damage our health. The water involved could be conducted throughout man-made drains and pipes, or it could run along natural streams that flow throughout cracks and crevices or alluvial springs beneath the ground. Water and certain geological faults are believed to disturb and intensify the frequency harmonics of the human body, measured in Hertz and said to be safe at 7.8 Hertz. These disturbing forces can be cleared or disconnected by specialists. In 2005, the World Health Organization assembled a working group to analyze the effects of exposure to electromagnetic fields on the development and incidence rates of a number of different diseases, most notably cancer. Gustav Friedrich von Paul has been described as the modern father of geopathic stress. Von Paul conducted a study in the Bavarian city of Bispelburg in 1929 that linked terrestrial radiation focus points with cancer incidence. It has also been suggested that ley lines create geopathic stress. Ley lines. Ley lines refer to straight alignments drawn between various historic structures and prominent landmarks. The idea developed in early 20th century Europe, and these alignments were recognized by ancient societies that deliberately erected structures along them. Since the 1960s, members of the Earth Mysteries movement and other esoteric traditions have commonly believed that such ley lines demarcate terrestrial energies and serve as guides for spacecraft. From the 1940s throughout the 1960s, the subject spread in Britain due to the formation of several university courses on the subject. This helped to professionalize the discipline and meant that it was no longer a field of research dominated by amateurs. It was in the last decade of this period that members of the counterculture embraced the belief in ley lines, where, in the words of archaeologist Matthew Johnson, they were attributed a sacred significance or mystical power. Ley lines came to be conceived as lines of power, the pathways to some from a spiritual force or energy accessible to our ancient ancestors, but now lost to the narrow-minded scientific thinking of the 20th century. Short news. Blackout in Spain due to an incident that cut the high voltage line coming from France. Blackout in half of Spain due to a cut in electrical connectivity with France. There was no light, no air conditioning, because everything is plugged into the electric current. There was nothing. It was extremely hot, says one affected person. More than 1 million homes and businesses were without electricity for almost an hour early Saturday afternoon in 9 Spanish regions and part of Portugal. Waiters said they experienced some problems with credit card payments, cash registers, banks, and traffic lights were not working. The interruption was due to a fault on high voltage line located in France. It was disconnected due to an incident with a seaplane flying over a fire, according to the Red Electric Net Company. An incident that coincides with a new all-time high for electricity prices in Spain. Spaniards lose more than half a point of purchasing power due to the rise in electricity and taxes. The meteoric rise in the price of electricity and the upward trend in taxes will reduce the purchasing power of Spaniards in 2021. They will lose about 0.65% of purchasing power. Life will be more expensive. Paseo del Prado and Buen Retiro declared UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The committee recognizes the exceptional universal value of Madrid's urban, artistic and natural space. Its candidacy was presented in 2019, but the session was postponed due to the crisis. In it, the community of Madrid presented the Paseo del Prado as the first of the European urban tree-lined promenades, with important historic buildings such as the Palacio de Cibeles or the Bank of Spain on its axis, and several museums such as the Prado, the Reina Sofia, or the Thyssen. An extraordinary urban landscape that unites culture and nature since the mid-16th century. Vatican discloses property holdings for first time in transparency campaign. Vatican on Saturday published information about its real estate holdings for the first time, revealing that it owns more than 5,000 properties as part of its more detailed financial disclosure. Putin boasts about the might of the Russian Navy at a naval parade in St. Petersburg. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Sunday boasted about Russia's military might during a naval parade in St. Petersburg on the occasion of the 325th anniversary of the Russian Navy. In his speech, Putin stressed that Russia continues to successfully develop new weapons and that the Navy has everything it needs to protect the motherland and national interests. Protests spread across Europe as shutdowns and health passes begin. Protests against shutdowns and health passes erupted across Europe on Saturday. Thousands upon thousands of protesters were seen in London, Dublin, Paris, Rome, Athens, and other European cities, according to pictures and news reports. Demonstrations in France appeared to be the most tense as riot police fired tear gas and clashes broke out in central Paris. Heavy clashes between protesters and police in Paris. Tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets of French cities for the second consecutive weekend to protest against health passes. In Paris, the rallies ended with scuffles with police. Law enforcement officers in the French capital used tear gas and water cannons to disperse the crowd as the situation in the street spiraled out of control during mass demonstrations sparked by government plans to extend health passes for public places. Thousands protest health passes in London. Anti-lockout activists have demonstrated in several British cities against the health passport initiative. Thousands of people have gathered in London's Trafalgar Square on Saturday for the so-called Freedom Rally to protest the restrictive measures introduced. Disgruntled Australians scuffle with police at banned freedom rallies as the lockdown spreads. Thousands of anti-blockade activists marched throughout major Australian cities on Saturday following an extension of health restrictions. Several people were arrested and dozens charged with crimes after scuffle broke out. Protesters chanted freedom as they descended on central Sydney. Anomalies. Cars and sidewalks washed away in west flooding in decades in Belgian city. The southern Belgian city of Dinant was hit by the most intense flooding in decades on Saturday after a 2-hour storm turned streets into torrential streams that washed away cars and sidewalks but killed no one. Italy asks Europe for fire-fighting planes to control Sardinia fires. Italy on Sunday asked European states to send fighting planes to help control fires that have ravaged part of the island of Sardinia, prompting the evacuation of hundreds of people. Wildfires turn full moon orange. Intense wildfires in the northwestern US and southwestern Canada cast an orange tinge on the July full moon Friday night as smoke from multiple fires billowed eastward. It snows in Africa. South Africa breaks 90 minimum temperature records. South Africa broke 19 minimum temperature records on Friday, with temperatures below zero in several cities, something not seen in decades. The South African Meteorological Service reported on its Twitter account. In Johannesburg, the country's largest city, the temperature was 7 degrees below zero last Friday, which demolishes the record of 6.3 degrees below zero set on July 19, 1995. Finance. Wall Street posts record close on gains and economic strength. Wall Street gained ground for a fourth straight session on Friday, extending a rally that pushed all three major stock indexes to record closing highs as a beat earnings and signs of economic revival fueled investors' appetite for risk. Dow Jones hit 35,000 points for the first time as stock indexes end week at record high. Wall Street Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed 35,000 points for the first time on Friday, while other key stock indexes also hit record highs, rebounding strongly from a drop earlier in the week. Euribor headed for a new drop in July. The 12-month Euribor, the most widely used indicator in Spain to calculate mortgages, is headed for a new drop in July, marking its second consecutive month of declines. What is really behind the European Union's latest effort to regulate cryptocurrencies? The European Union has proposed legislation requiring service providers to report cryptocurrency transactions of $1,000 or more. Although officials claim that the new regulation targets illegal activities, the real reason behind them may be taxation. Oil pumping increases. Oil is starting to poke its head out, and now it looks like it's for good. The increase of 400,000 barrels per day in pumping since August and every month until next December implies an increase of 2 million barrels between now and the end of the year. This is due to the recent agreement reached by OPEC+. Asia. Tokyo braces for storm of wrecks kettles after scorching heat. Tokyo, host of the Summer Olympics, is bracing for a storm that has begun to disrupt competition schedules this week, although surfers have taken the first cut of the rough weather in stride. Shanghai region braces for Typhoon Impha after flooding in central China. China's commercial hub Shanghai and neighboring coastal regions cancelled all flights, slowed or suddenly subway trains and closed businesses as Typhoon Impha made landfall Sunday, causing flooding and the felling of about 1,000 trees. Heavy rains in India trigger floods, landslides, at least 125 deaths. Rescue teams in India battled throughout thick mud and debris Saturday to reach dozens of submerged homes as the death toll from landslides and accidents caused by torrential monsoon rains rose to 125. India rejects bids by Amazon and Flipkart to quash antitrust probe. An Indian court rejected appeals by Amazon and Walmart-owned Flipkart to suspend an antitrust investigation into their business practices in the country. Afghan forces' first job is to slow Taliban monument. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said Saturday that the first job of Afghan security forces is to make sure that they slow the Taliban's momentum before attempting to retake territory, as Afghan forces plan to consolidate around strategically important parts of the country. Taliban beheaded Afghan interpreter working with U.S. troops. The man allegedly killed had been a U.S. military interpreter for 16 months and had requested asylum for security reasons. He was denied a special immigrant visa because he had been discharged in 2012 after failing standard polygraph test. He never received an explanation as to why he failed the polygraph. After being attacked on the outskirts of Kabul local US Army extraditor Sohail Pardis was beheaded by Taliban militants, and this brutal murder has sparked new fears among translators, who fear attacks as Western coalition soldiers withdraw from Afghanistan, CNN reported Saturday. Animals. Chimpanzees and gorillas also go to war. Chimpanzees and gorillas coexist peacefully, but sometimes stage full-blown incursions into each other's territory that lead to lethal fights, a team of German researchers has found. A brave cat confronts a cobra and saves its owner. For almost 30 minutes, the feline kept guard until professionals arrived to pick up the snake. A brave cat saved his owner's life by preventing a cobra from entering the house in the Indian city of Bhubaneswar, in the state of Odisha, reports Hindustan Times. In the viral video, which has already conquered the networks in India, the two animals can be seen as they stare at each other. Despite the disturbing appearance of its counterpart, the feline is not concerned about the presence of the snake and patiently guards the entrance of the house. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.